you very much for this opportunity. This is the last of the four seminar series on the major Vedanta philosophies. The first week we did. Thank you, Hare Krishna. The first week we did Achintya Bheda Bheda. The next of the seminar series was on Sri Ramanujacharya and Vishishtha Dvaita. The third, which we did last week, was on Madhvacharya and Tattvavada. Today, we will do a comparative analysis of Sri Shankara's Kevaladvaita, Madhvacharya's Tattvavada, Ramanujacharya Vishishtadvaita, Sri Vallabhacharya's Shuddhadvaita. And I'll say a few words about Dvaita of Nimbarkacharya, and then we will do Achintya Bheda Bheda. Towards the end, we will do a comparative analysis using tables to compare different aspects of these philosophies. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udhiraye nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashloke Bhakti Om Adhyatmiramanasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurubhe Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manodhishtam Samapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Tadamai Dharati Swavanti Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Uttam Bhagakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagagana Bhagunatamitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savarutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sadagana Lita Shri Vishakavita He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Chanapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhike Vrindavaneshwari Dashabhami Sute Devi Brahmani Haripriya Panchakalpataruvyascha Kripasindhubhyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gauravata Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3, Verse 3. Chapter 30, Verse 3. Yadatruvasya dehasya sanubandasya durmatihi Turvani manyate poha grihakshetra pasunicham. यद्ध्रुवस्य देहस्य सानुबन्धस्य दुर्मतिः दुर्वाणि मन्यते मोहात् गृहक्षेत्रवसूनि च यद्ध्रुवस्य देहस्य सानुबन्धस्य दुर्मतिः दुर्वाणि मन्यते मोहात् गृहक्षेत्रवासूनि च
यत् अध्रुवस्य देहस्य सानुबन्धस्य दुर्मतिः ध्रुवान् मायते मोहात् गृहक्षेत्रवसूनि च
देहस्य
सानुबन्धस्य दुर्मतिः ध्रुवाणि मन्यते मोहात् क्षेत्रवासुनि च
यद्ध्रुवस्य देहस्य सानुबन्धस्य दुर्मतिः दुर्वाणि मन्यते मोहात् गृहक्षेत्रवसूनि च. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace I.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. The misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent and that the attractions of home, land, and wealth, which are in relationship with that body, are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. Purport. The materialist thinks that persons engaged in Krishna consciousness are crazy fellows wasting time by chanting Hare Krishna. But actually, he does not know that he himself is in the darkest regions of craziness because of accepting his body as permanent. And in relation to his body, he accepts his home, his country, his society, and all other paraphernalia as permanent. This materialistic acceptance of the permanency of home, land, etc. is called the illusion of Maya. This is clearly mentioned here. Moha Griha Kshetra Vasuni. Out of illusion, only does the materialist accept his home, his land, and his money as permanent. Out of this illusion, the family life, the national life, and the economic development, which are very important factors in modern civilization, have grown. A Krishna conscious person knows that this economic development of human society is but a temporary illusion. In another part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the acceptance of the body as oneself, the acceptance of others as kinsmen in relationship to this body, and the acceptance of the land of one's birth as worshipable are declared to be the products of an animal civilization. When, however, one is enlightened in Krishna consciousness, he can use these for the service of the Lord. That is a very subtle proposition. Everything has a relationship with Krishna. When all economic development and material advancement are utilized to advance the cause of Krishna consciousness, a new phase of progressive life arises. It's not shared. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So this is the, I'm not going to speak much about this verse, but today's discussion will pretty much highlight what is there in this purport here. So today's session is the last of the 4 of the seminar series of comparative Vedanta philosophies. So we are going to briefly summarize what we have done before. Sri Shankaracharya's commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, called as the Sharirika Bhashya, Sri Madhvacharya's commentary on the Anubhashya, Ramanujacharya's Bhashya is called as Shri Bhashya. Vallabhacharya has also written a Vallabha Bhashya. Nimbarkacharya, which I'm just going to briefly mention here, is called as the Vedanta Parijata Saurabha, is the commentary of Nimbarkacharya. And we have our Shatsandarbha, which pretty much gives the summary of Achintya Veda Veda. But our philosophy, the Vedanta Sutra commentary is written by Sri Baladeva Vidyabhusha, and it is called as the Govinda Bhashya. So we will first start with, I'm going to spend about 3 minutes on each of these, and then we will do a comparative analysis. The first one we are going to be doing is the metaphysics of Kevala Advaita or Mayavada. And this is called as the Sutra Bhashya, Brahma Sutra Bhashya here is called the Sharirika Bhashya. So what is the sum and substance here? We will do this. So the first Shankaracharya, called the Adi Shankaracharya, wrote the commentary of this, and there was a purpose for this because at that time the Vedic system was pretty much getting routed in India, and Shankaracharya brought this back into brought the Vedic system back into the back in India. So the first concept here is that the absolute truth is advaya. It is non-dual. Okay. So if you see here, this absolute truth is shown here in the kind of a diagram here, and this is an homogeneous non-dual spirit. Okay. So if you think that there is like a homogeneous spirit, okay, so that is called Brahman according to Shankaracharya. Okay, it is a homogeneous whole. There is no part. Okay, there is no part and parcel, nothing. It is one whole spirit. There are no attributes. It doesn't have any attributes. It is unqualified. Okay, and there is nothing outside. So all there is Brahman, which is an undifferentiated, unqualified, attributeless spirit. Okay, and this Brahman, so what is this Brahman? This is pure existence. Okay, consciousness, knowledge, and these are not attributes. This is the definition of Brahman. According to Shankaracharya, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. This is Upanishad statement. And these are not qualities of Brahman, but this is the definition of Brahman, of that undifferentiated spirit. And so without attributes and in the transcendental sense called as the there are two sense. One is called as Paramarthika, Vyavaharika. Okay, so in the transcendental sense, all you have is one undifferentiated spirit. To put in single, this is the statement from the Upanishad. Brahman, the statement of the Upanishad is Sarvam Kalavidam Brahma. All there exists is Brahman. Okay, that is the thing here. And so, in one phrase, if you have to summarize this, Kevala Advaita, Brahma, Satyam, Jagan, Vidya. So, for you to say that there is one undifferentiated spirit, then that means that this Jagat or this cosmic manifestation has to be Mithya. Because if there is something called Jagat and there is something called Brahman, then there will be duality. Okay, because you have Jagat, one, Brahman, Jagat, okay, one, and then second you have this Brahman, two. So Advaita gets collapsed into Dvaita. So therefore, this material Jagat should become illusion. Okay, so this is point number one. But so the question comes is, what is it that we are seeing here? What is this universe? Everybody's seeing, we are having a body, everybody's seeing this universe. There is Earth, there is Jupiter, there is Mars, all these planets are there. So what is all this? So Shankaracharya say all there is all of this actually is not existing. It is just an illusory platform. Okay. So then comes the question, okay, if there is something called illusion and there is something called Brahman, again there is duality. You have illusion, Maya, and then you have Brahman. So again there is two. Again Advaita will collapse into duality. So in Shankaracharya says here, actually in the final sense, even the illusion doesn't exist. Okay, so all there exists is just Brahman. In the lower platform, we see all these illusion plays. There is this universe, there is matter, there is Jupiter, there is Mars, there is Earth, there is temple. All these things are some illusory games. And finally, even the illusion cannot exist. So in the purest form, all exists is one undifferentiated, homogeneous spirit called as Brahman. But from a mundane perspective, it appears that as though there is world because of this concept called as avidya, because of ignorance. But ultimately, even that ignorance cannot exist. So if you see this diagram here, from a mundane perspective, it looks like as though there is an illusory world. But finally, even so, that is why I put dotted lines here. But from an ultimate realized Advaitan, even that illusion has to go away. And finally, all there exists is one undifferentiated Brahman. And that is I am the Brahman, you are the Brahman, that Prabhu is the Brahman. It's all one Brahman with no distinctions between you, I, they, and so on. Is it okay? So this is a simple summary, 2-minute summary of the metaphysics of Kevala Advaita. And Kevala Advaita is concomitant with Mayavada because for you to have only Advaita, you have to say that the various things in this world are illusion because it goes concomitant with it. So our problem is not with the Advaita part. The Advaita part is okay, it is there in Abheda. The problem is with the Mayavada part. Okay, the Advaita is part of the realities there because it is there. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anantarupam, Brahma Samhita says that. Okay, so now let's go to the next one. This is Tattvavada. I've just phrased it as Dvaita because it talks about absolute differences. Okay, this is almost exactly opposite to that of Advaita in all sense, in many sense. Okay, there'll be some differences here and there. So in this philosophy, Madhvacharya, who is one of our Purva Acharyas, so he talks about 5 different Bheda. What is the definition of Brahman here? The definition of Brahman is Hari. Narayana is the definition of Brahman. The individual soul is not the definition of Brahman. And therefore, this Narayana has primary attributes, okay, which are primary attributes like he has conch shell, he has disc, he has Daijayanti garland. These are all his primary attributes. And then you have soul. Okay, and then you have matter. So what are the 5 differences? One is the Brahman, which is Ishvara, is different from soul. This is difference number 1. Difference number 2, this Brahman or Ishvara is different from matter. This is difference number 2, Bheda number 2. Then Bheda number 3 is each soul is different from another soul. That means this Prabhuji is different from that Prabhuji. And there is absolute difference between them that the fate of this Prabhuji can never be reached by the fate of this Prabhuji. So there is absolute Bheda. Difference number 4, Bheda number 4, the soul is different from matter. Okay, so one soul is different from, let's say, this table, which is Jara. Difference Bheda number 5 is one matter is different from another matter. That means this table, this desk is different from that chair. And these two are intrinsically different. And these differences are irreconcilable, whether in the material realm or in the spiritual realm in Vaikuntha. That means matter, soul, and God have all been eternally existing. And there are eternal differences between them, which can never be reconciled ever. So even in the liberated state, these differences persist. That means that somebody in one mukta, in the liberated soul, in the Vaikuntha, can never be same as another liberated soul in Vaikuntha. That means one Gopa is not same as another Gopa. They're all different. They all have different attributes. So there are gradations. So in the material world also, there are gradations. In the spiritual world also, there are gradations. And these gradations are irreconcilable. So that means that a soul, let's say that a soul is predominantly in the mode of ignorance, that soul in due course of time will go to more hellish planets. And it cannot be saved. And then in the same way, a soul which is predominantly in the mode of goodness, eventually will go towards higher planetary systems. And that this soul is a pratibhimbhamsa, okay, a reflective part, a conditioned reflective part of the absolute truth. So in that sense, the soul has dependence on the Lord. Okay, so that is the 2-minute summary of the metaphysics of Dvaita, and Madhvacharya, who's identified with Hanuman, Vayu, and Bhima. This is the 3rd philosophy, the metaphysics of Vishishta Advaita, this is Ramanujacharya. It's a very lofty philosophy where the Brahman, if you compare that with a soul body together, the soul, the unit, the soul is Ishvara, who he terms, Ramanujacharya calls it as Paravasudeva. Based on the statement in Upanishad, he calls it as Paravasudeva. And then, just as we have a soul and then we have a body, in the same way, the total existence, Brahman has a soul called Narayana, who he attributes as Paravasudeva, and the body is the various individual jiva souls and matter. Just as, so that means if you take as the body, the whole body soul combo is called Brahman, okay, then the body is analogous to the different souls. So, for example, this Prabhu is maybe a soul in the arm. Another Prabhu is like this Mataji or whatever is a soul in the feet. Okay, so they're all, I'm just giving an analogy here. So they're all composed, the body of this Brahman is composed of various souls and matter of different living souls and different matter. Okay, so that means that everything is real because they're all part of this body. And the soul of that existence, total existence, is called as Paravasudeva or Narayana. Okay, so what does it say? The Ishvara, okay, this is Narayana, is the Lord, okay, who's the universal soul of this whole panorganistic body, which is comprised of Jiva and matter. Okay, so whole panorganistic body of Jiva and matter, and the soul of that body is Narayana. So he's also called as Parabrahman, okay, because this whole thing is Brahman and this Ishvara is called as Parabrahman. And he has innumerable primary attributes. These are what are the primary attributes? He has a conch shell, he has a disc, he has a yellow garment, he is of a certain color, he has a gadha. So these are his primary attributes. Okay, so these primary attributes of this Ishvara are unchangeable and they always stay as it is. Okay, and he also has secondary attributes, which are this Jiva and matter, which form the body of that Brahman. And they have the secondary attributes. And what are the secondary attributes? They have two things. One is Jiva souls, and the other is matter. They all form the secondary attributes. And these secondary attributes can transform. That is, sometime, at some point of time, they remain in an undifferentiated state. Okay. And then when creation happens, so-called creation happens, they differentiate and become various universes. So that means the secondary attribute of the Brahman will transform. Okay. So this is a 2-minute summary of the Vishishtadvaita philosophy. We did one whole session on Vishishtadvaita 3 weeks ago. This is the fourth of the philosophy called as the Shuddha Advaita or pure non-dualism of Vallabhacharya. We traditionally attribute this to Vishnu Swami, but the scripture is no more there, so Vallabhacharya rewrote it. And here, this is somewhat similar to Shankaracharya's Kevala Advaita without the Mayavada part. Okay, but does not talk about the Veda. It talks only about Advaita. Okay, so what is this Brahman? This Brahman is a homogeneous spirit, just like Shankaracharya's, but it has attributes. Okay, it has attributes. Okay, it is homogeneous, but it has attributes, and this Brahman is called Krishna. This Brahman is called Krishna, and so there is absolute non-difference, okay, but it has attributes. It is attributes but homogeneous. So that is the key there. And what is it? What is this Brahman? It has 3 primary qualities: Sat, Chit, Ananda. Okay. Now, and what is then all that exists is Brahman? Then what about Jiva and matter? Vallabhacharya states here that they are identical with this Brahman. And what does it mean? Like, let's say, like in an ocean, you have sea waves coming out, right? So in the same way, if there is a wave coming out, that is called creation. And then once the wave goes back into the ocean, that means it can no more be differentiated from Brahman. In this way, it is Advaya, it is non-dual. Okay, so that means like matter and soul, when is it that we are able to see their individual attribute? When like waves coming out of the ocean, in the same way, so creation is appearance of those waves, and dissolution is disappearance of waves. So when the waves go back into the ocean, it is so it is he also another analogy used in his Vedanta Sutra Bhashya is like coils of a snake. Okay, so Brahman is compared to a snake, and then if the snake coils, so at that time it looks like it is creation, and then when it is straightens out back, it is the same snake. There is no difference. So it means like as though when the snake coils, it looks like it is creation, and when the snake straightens out, there is no creation. It is all dissolved. Okay, but unlike Shankara, there is a complete identification of the world with Brahman. So that is the difference here. That the world, the matter is not illusory, but the matter is equated with Brahman. That means matter itself is actually spirit, and it is Brahman, according to Shuddha Advaita. This is like a 2-minute summary of this. So we'll give again a 2-minute summary of Achintya Bheda. So this is a little more complex, but we did one whole 2-hour session on Achintya Bheda before. So I'm not going to repeat the whole 2-hour lecture here, but so here there are 2 realms. One realm is the spiritual actual realm, and other is the conditioned soul's realm, which from a material perspective. From the spiritual perfect perspective, you have Krishna as Bhagavan, as the personality of Godhead. Okay. And all the souls and matter, they are spiritual entities in service of Krishna. Okay. This is the Bheda aspect. But all of them also is a spirit, non-dual spirit, which is called as Brahman, okay? And this is Abheda aspect. And both exist simultaneously, okay? That is all that exists is one non-dual, absolute, homogeneous Brahman. And at the same time, everything is all the individual souls are in the service of Krishna as the personality of Godhead, including soul, matter, everything as spirit. They are in service of Krishna, and this is the absolute Bheda. And how the Abheda and Bheda exist simultaneously is Achintya, is inconceivable. So if you take the Brahman, so you have Krishna as the supreme spirit. Okay, the same Brahman can be seen in 3 features. One is the personality of Godhead called as Bhagavan, and as the super soul, as Paramatma, and as an homogeneous, undifferentiated spirit called as Brahman, depending on the seer. So, and the individual soul and matter both are of the same nature as Krishna. They all are spirit. Okay. So, what is matter? The matter appears in 2 phases. One under illusion, okay, which is under the cloud. It appears the way it is to us as dual. But the reality is the matter transforms into spirit, and it is seen here as, like, for example, this microphone, okay, for a materialist, okay, which is this lower platform here, which is shown, the illusory platform, it appears as matter made up of so many metals, non-metals, and so on. Okay, but in reality, this belongs to the spiritual category and is in service of Krishna. But those seers who are in that Brahman platform, which is in the top, Brahma Bhuta, Prasannatma, those who are in the Brahman platform are able to see this microphone as a spiritual entity in service of Krishna. But the same matter transforms into same spirit is in the form of matter for a materialist. Okay, so that is the 2 visions here. So the individual soul, there's an Abheda aspect. The Abheda aspect is it is same as Krishna. There's no difference. There is a homogeneous whole, but there is a Bheda aspect simultaneously where these are distinct spiritual forms, distinct spiritual forms with ultimate variegatedness of these spiritual forms in service of Krishna. And this energy Okay, this Jiva soul is the marginal energy called as the Tatastha Shakti of the Lord, and they are separated parts and parcels as far as the Veda aspect is concerned. And the Bhagavan, the Krishna, is the Shaktiman or the as an energetic from whom the energy emanates. And he's also present as Paramatma, okay, who is the imminent expansion of the Lord and is present everywhere. Like every atom is present. That's why the electrons are moving, and not just in living beings, but he's present in every atom. The Lord is present as Paramatma Super Soul. This is a 2-minute summary of the 2-hour session we did. We did so many quotations from different Upanishads during the 2-hour lecture. So if you had missed this, if there's a YouTube recording, you could see all those references, how Jiva Goswami came up with this summary of what is the natural meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. So we're going to end this session with like a set of tables on. I'm going to take one philosophy which I did not do here was Dvaita, which belongs to Nimbarkacharya. And it is very, very similar to our Bheda, except the Achintya part is is not there. Okay, Nimbarkacharya finds it very logical that there is Bheda. Okay, but Jiva Goswami clearly says that when you have Bheda, Abheda simultaneously, it is inconceivable. It is Achintya. And we have so many references to show that it is Achintya. So, and Nimbarkacharya's commentary is called as Vedanta Parijahata Saurabha. That is the Vedanta Sutra commentary there. Let's take different aspects here. Okay, so I'm comparing 4 major philosophies here. One is Kevala Dvaita or Mayavada of Shankaracharya, Vishishta Dvaita of Ramanujacharya, Dvaita of Sri Madhvacharya, Achintya Veda of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, predominantly illustrated by Jiva Goswami in his Shak Sandarbha. Subject number 1, matter. Okay, in Shankaracharya, this matter is unreal. It does not exist. But from a mundane perspective, it looks like it is Maya. Okay, but ultimately it doesn't exist. For the Vishishtadvaita, these are secondary attributes of the Ishvara. Okay, because they form the body of that Brahman. Okay, and it is real. Madhvacharya, they are real, but they are some kind of reflective counterparts of the absolute truth. And it is real and has always existed. In Achintya Veda, again, there are 2 aspects to it. The transcendental aspect, in turn, has an Abheda aspect where matter, in terms of spirit, is one with Brahman. Okay, there is nothing like separately something called as matter. And then the Veda aspect is all this matter they are spiritual forms, entities in service of Krishna. For example, this microphone is in service of Krishna. This harmonium is in service of Krishna. They are all in service. That is the Veda aspect of it. And then the mundane aspect is our material view is that it is still illusion. All this. So, for example, our perception of this material world is illusion. That is the material aspect. Ishvara. In Kevala Dvaita, there is no concept of Ishvara because it is identical with Brahman. In Vishishtadvaita, the Ishvara is the soul of the panorganistic body of the Brahman and is called as Paravasudeva. In the Madhvacharya's Tattva Veda, it is just Hari or Vishnu Tattva. They're all the same. And for us, in the original personality of Godhead as Krishna, is there absolute oneness of all that exists? In Kevala Dvaita, yes. There is one homogeneous whole. In Vishishtadvaita, no. There is qualified oneness because there is one Brahman, but the Brahman has the soul of the Brahman is Paravasudeva and has a panorganistic body. So there is one Brahman, but it is qualified in this way, such that Ishvara or Narayana has primary attributes and has secondary attributes in the form of Jiva matter. In Madhvacharya, there is no absolute oneness. There is absolute Veda between Jiva, Jada, and Ishvara. In Achintya Veda, yes, there is absolute oneness in terms of Veda, but there is also absolute difference in as well. Okay, so there is yes and no. Achintya Veda is actually more complex in that sense. Is there absolute difference among all that exists? Kevala Dvaita says no. The concept of difference itself is repugnant to Kevala Advaita. In Vishishta Advaita, there is no absolute difference. And in Dvaita, again, yes, there is absolute difference. In Achintya Bheda, it's again yes and no. You have Bheda and Abheda simultaneously. Let's take responsibilities of our actions. Okay, we do various activities. How is it viewed? In Kevala Advaita, again, there are two platforms. There is a transcendental platform where there are no actions because the Brahman simply exists. Okay, so where is the action? So if I'm talking, it's not like Brahman is talking. Okay, Brahman cannot talk, Brahman cannot move, Brahman cannot just go around and play. Okay, so actually there is no activities in the true sense. But in the mundane sense, there are illusory activities. And that illusion itself cannot exist finally. In Vishishtadvaita, the souls are the secondary modes of the Ishvara, and they are more like the Ishvara is like the king, and the Jiva souls are their subjects. So that means the Jiva souls have freedom to do what they want, even though the rules are being laid out by that Ishvara. So in that sense, there is responsibility for the action. In Madhvacharya, since they are only merely conditioned reflective counterparts of the Ishvara, there is absolute difference and Jiva takes full responsibility for their actions. Okay? And they get either eternally damned to hell or to heaven or just stay here. In Achintya Veda, there are so many things here. In the transcendental real realm, you have Abheda where they are one with Brahman, where there are no activities there. And then in Bheda, they are all in service of Krishna. In the mundane aspect, the Jiva takes responsibility under illusion. So as long as one is under the Mahamaya, okay, so the top part is they are under Yoga Maya, the bottom part is they are under the Mahamaya. As long as one is under the Mahamaya, they are under the stringent grips of material nature. And they will have to undergo what is based on their karma phal. Next question is Jiva part of Brahman. In Kevala Dvaita, Jiva is identical to Brahman. In Vishishtadvaita, Jiva is a secondary mode when differentiated. Okay, and anyway it is differentiated, it is secondary mode, but when and the Jiva is an integral structural part of that Brahman. They are structural part of that Brahman. Okay, I'll tell you that difference with the Achintya Vedas soon. And then in Madhvacharya, no, they are absolutely different but dependent. The Jiva is still dependent on, because how can you have a reflective counterpart if you don't have the original? The original is Ishvara. In Achintya Veda, the Abheda part is they are one with Jiva is one with Brahman. There is no difference between Krishna and the individual soul. But then there is a Bheda aspect where the Jiva soul is a separated part and parcel. Separated part and parcel as the marginal energy of the absolute truth. So that means that is a big difference here between Vishishtadvaita and Achintya Veda. Here is that here there's an integral structural part of the Brahman, but here it is a separated energy of the Bhinna Shakti, okay, separated energy of that absolute truth. And then the relationship between Jiva and Ishvara in Shankaracharya's Advaita, Kevala Advaita, it is identical. There is no difference between Jiva and Ishvara. In Vishishtadvaita, if the Ishvara is the soul, Jiva is the body. Okay. In Madhvacharya, in Vaikuntha, they are transcendental reflective counterparts. But in the material world, they are conditioned reflective counterparts. In Achintya Bheda Veda, the Abheda aspect is that all there is spirit. The Bheda, okay, Sarvam Kalavedam Brahma, that's what it is, Abheda. We don't interpret anything. We take everything as it is. When it is said here, Sarvam Kalavedam Brahma, all there exists spirit, that is the Abheda aspect here. The Bheda aspect is that every spiritual entity is in service of Krishna. In the mundane aspect, the Jiva identifies with the material body, and that is illusion. Next. Relationship between matter and Ishvara. Okay, in Shankaracharya, again, there are two aspects here. There's a transcendental aspect where there is no matter and hence there is no relation. So all this doesn't exist. It's all illusion. It is playing. We have all concocted everybody is seeing this table in a certain way. So in that way, it is like a multi-layered illusory existence, which itself doesn't exist finally. In Vishishtadvaita, The matter is a secondary mode of that Ishvara. In Dvaita, they are some kind of a reflective counterparts, okay, which are eternally existing. In Achintya Bheda, again, there are two aspects. The transcendental aspect is the matter transform is actually spirit and it is one with Brahman. The Bheda aspect is every matter as spirit is in service of Krishna. This microphone is in service of Krishna. This harmonium is in service of Krishna, like that. The mundane aspect is that everything is under the control of the material energy called as Mahamaya. Concept of energy transformation. So in Kevala Advaita, there is no energy, there is no transformation. All that exists is just Brahman, right? In Vishishtadvaita, the Ishvara stays the same, the Paravasudeva stays same, but the secondary modes of Brahman will transform. Okay? In Dvaita, okay, all are eternally separate, but matter and soul are dependent. That means that the material world always exists. Material world, even though there is creation, it always exists, okay, in some form or the other, whether differentiated or undifferentiated. They always existed. Okay, so there is no transformation of energy from matter to spirit alone. Matter exists as matter eternally. That is the Pancha Bheda. Matter cannot become same as spirit. But in Achintya Bheda, there is this concept of transformation of energy. Okay, where like when you cook food offering, it looks as matter to a conditioned soul, but those who are Brahma Bhuta, those in the spiritual platform are able to see it as spirit. And Krishna accepts only spiritual offering because Krishna has nothing to do with matter in that sense. And therefore, matter transforms into spirit, and spirit transforms into matter, vice versa. So there is a concept here. So in Vishishtadvaita, the secondary modes of Brahman transform. But in Achintya Bheda, the energies transform, okay, which is the law of transformation of energy that is specific to Achintya Bheda. Got it? Next one, dependence of the world and Jiva on Ishvara. There is no world, there is no dependence, nothing. All this doesn't exist in Advaita. In Vishishta Advaita, yes, they're all dependent because the body of that Brahman is still interdependent on that universal soul. Okay, as Paravasudeva, they are dependent. And Dvaita, of course, there is absolute dependence there. And in Achintya Bheda, in Abheda aspect, everything is spirit. Okay, even for that, so this is the, but the Veda aspect, everything is dependent on Krishna. The comparative Vedanta or is the next topic is the Lord immanent and transcendent. Immanent means he's near us. Transcendent means he is, let's say he is far, okay, in the spiritual realm. So in Kevala Advaita of Shankaracharya, there is no concept of Lord in the first place. So this point itself doesn't exist. And in Vishishta Advaita, he is present as immanent, as Antaryami, okay? And in transcendent, he is present as Paravasudeva, as the soul of the pan-organistic body of the Brahman. He exists as transcendent, but in immanent, he is there as Antaryami everywhere. Okay, in Dvaita, the immanent form is called Paramatma. Madhvacharya himself is a topmost yogi. And then in the transcendental form, he is known as Vishnu. But there's no difference between the different Vishnu Tattva there. Achintya Bheda, in the immanent form, he is present as Paramatma. The Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, the Vishnu who lies in the milk ocean, is present as Paramatma. In the transcendental realm, he is present as Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, even within this universe. Antantarastam, Paramam Jayantarastam. Antantarastam. So in this under this universe, you have he's present as in the transcendental form as Garbhodakasaya Vishnu. Paramanu, in atoms, he's present as the Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, as Paramatma. And he's also beyond this universe, he's also present eternally in the Vaikuntha realm, beyond in the Viraja Nadi. Beyond the Viraja Nadi, he's present in the Vaikuntha realm as in the transcendental realm as well, in Vraja Gokul. Who is Ishvara? The concept of Ishvara doesn't exist in Advaita, Kevala Advaita. In Vishishta Advaita, he's called Narayana. And Madhvacharya, he's generally Vishnu Tattva. All Vishnu Tattva forms are eternal. And Achintya Bheda, he's Krishna. But that is the same thing in the other sampradayas of Vishnu Swami, Vallabhacharya sampradaya called as Shuddha Dvaita philosophy, or the Nimbarkacharyas, Dvaita Dvaita, and Achintya Bheda. 3 out of the 5 Vaishnava philosophies call that absolute truth as Krishna. Two of and Ramanuja calls it as Narayana, Madhvacharya. There is no difference between Krishna, Narayana, Rama, anybody. And the concept, so that means out of the 6 existing commentaries of the Vedanta Sutra, 5 of them are Vaishnavite, and 1 of them is non-denominational, okay, which is Shankaracharya's. So it is very hard to write a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra based on Shaivite explanation or a Shakta explanation or so on. So 5 out of the 6 are Vaishnavite and 1 is Mayavada. Next is the difference between Krishna and Vishnu. Kevala Advaita, all this concepts doesn't exist. And Vishishta Advaita, they're all incarnations, avatar like Rama, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha. They're all avatar of Narayana. That means that they're not eternal. In the Vaikuntha, these are not happening eternally. Okay, but in Dvaita, in Madhvacharya, they're all eternal, absolute, and they are always existing in Vaikuntha. Got it? And Achintya Bheda Veda, there is absolute non-difference. At the same time, they're absolutely different as Krishna as the source of all expansions. And all of them are eternally existing in Vaikuntha, different lokas. For example, you have a separate planet or eternal pastimes of Lord Narasimha always happening. Eternal pastimes of Sri Ramachandra Prabhu are always happening in the Ayodhya, in the spiritual realm. In the same way that Dwaraka, the Vrajagokul, everything's eternally existing, and it is extremely theistic in that realm, same as Dvaita. Okay, so the next concept, the concept of Vishnu as the soul of the universe. Such concepts don't exist in Shankaracharya because there is no identifying Vishnu itself as an illusion. And then Vishishta Advaita, yes, Vishnu is the soul of the entire creation, okay, which is because he is the Vishnu, the Paravasudeva is the soul of that panorganistic body. In Madhvacharya, it is connected only in the sense as a reflective counterparts of the absolute truth, as dependent of the absolute truth, as dependent of that Brahman. In Achintya Bheda Veda, this concept exists because just like Vishishta Advaita, the same concept exists, but Achintya Bheda Veda talks a lot more than what Vishishta Advaita talks about. And if you see the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can see that the Mahavishnu or Karana Dakasai Vishnu, the Karana ocean, is lying in that ocean, in the Virajana there. So, as a soul of the entire creation, Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu, the Vishnu who lies in the Garbhodaka ocean, as the soul of this universe, each universe, and then the Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu as a super soul. So, this concept of soul of every universe exists in 3 levels in the case of Gaudiya Sampradaya. And then method of acquiring knowledge. In the case of Kevala Dvaita, there is no method of acquiring knowledge at all. Because if there is a method, it will become duality. You get it? So that means because Brahman just exists. You cannot go acquire knowledge. You cannot go and say, okay, here is my teacher. I've accepted a spiritual master. And so I'm going to go and get knowledge. There is no spiritual master. There is no individual entity. There is no learning. There is no, all that exists is that undifferent Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma as that Brahman with whose definition is this. So the next one, that is from Vishishta Advaita. Everything is real there. So Pratyaksha, Anumana, Shruti, and all the subdivisions of them, everything is real. And in Tattvavada of Brahma Madhvacharya, again, there are so many subdivisions of these. There are like 9 such divisions. Everything is accepted as real, as long as they don't contradict Shruti. And then Achintya Bheda Veda, Jiva Goswami is very clear in his Tattva Sandarbha that he accepts Shruti alone and Shabda alone, and everything else can be faulty. That is very unique to Achintya Bheda Veda. That is why we are able to take it as Bheda. We take every statement of Bheda as it is, every statement of Abheda as it is, and that is Achintya. So there is Jiva Goswami clearly says there is no need to analyze scriptures. Take every statement as it is. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself didn't find a need to write a commentary for the Vedanta Sutra because Arthoyam Brahma Sutrana. Srimad Bhagavad, the Bhagavatam itself is a natural commentary of that Vedanta Sutra, and he didn't find a necessity to it. And even Sri Baladeva Vidyabhushana, when he had to write the Govinda Bhashya, it was only out of necessity because of the pressure put by the in the Sri Radha Govinda Dev temple in Jaipur that he had to write it. Otherwise, there was no necessity to write that at all. the position of the devas, okay, the various devatas, there is no devatas at all. So that means like it is it's a very concerning position there, because they go and pray to various devas, the so-called followers of Kevaladvaita. They pray to various devas, ultimately to only say that they don't have any separate existence. It is it's a very sad situation there. And then you have Vishishtadvaita. The devas are also part of the secondary modes, but just like the jiva souls, they are also part of the secondary modes of that Brahman. In Madhvacharya, the jiva souls, they are all of higher credentials than us. For example, the different demigods, they all have far more material and spiritual attributes that we can never become them. Okay, for example, if you have one living entity can never go at any time become Durga Devi. It cannot happen. And there is a big ranking of all these devas, okay, starting from the first living entity, according to Madhvacharya, who is Mahalakshmi. That is the first living entity. Okay, I'm talking only Tattvavada here. I'm not talking our aspect, our Achintya Veda. From there, the ranking is given in his scripture, the treatise he wrote, as called as Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya, which is the most authoritative scripture commentary on the Mahabharata that exists so far, where he gives a complete gradation of rankings among the living entities. And then in Achintya Veda, in the Abheda aspect is everything is one with Brahman. And Bheda aspect, all these devas are in service of Krishna. Okay, you have the different devas, Durga Devis in service of Krishna, everybody's in service of Krishna. The mundane aspect, they're all material controllers under the ultimate control of Krishna. This might be my last slide, maybe. No, there's one more. So, is the world real? In Kevaladvaita, there is no world per se. Okay. In Vishishtadvaita, yes, the world is real. It forms the body of that Brahman. In Madhvacharya's, yes, the world is real, and there is an absolute existence of this world. In Achintya Veda, yes, the world is real. The world is actually spiritual. Okay. But from the mundane perspective, also there is a world that exists from a conditioned perspective. It appears in a certain illusory way. Is the illusion real? That is the next aspect. Yes, in the Kevala Dvaita, in the real illusion itself doesn't exist. But for a materialist perspective, yes, there is illusion, but that exists only till liberation. When they find out that they are Brahman, there is no illusion. Until you find out you're Brahman, there is an illusion. We are walking, talking, protecting ourselves under illusion. But when finally one point of time we will realize that we are Brahman, at that time there is no illusion. And until then, what was the soul doing? Actually, none of those things actually existed. All those actions actually didn't exist, but the mundane part actually doesn't exist. Then Vishishtadvaita, there is no illusion at all. Everything is real. For example, if we are mistaking a rope for a snake, that means there is some real reason why the rope was mistaken for a snake. There's a reason why we're mistaking a rope for a snake and not maybe this wall for a snake, right? Or a shadow for a pillar, stuff like that. So there is a reason why. So that means that the fact that we had the illusion, there is a reason behind it, according to Vishishtadvaita. Even dreams are real. That means like what is happening in a dream, there is a reason why somebody had a bad dream. It is part of their karma that they had to suffer in their dream, according to Vishishtadvaita. In Madhvacharya, there is no illusion. Everything is real. Everything is real in Tattvavada. In Achintya Veda, from a conditioned perspective, what we are from an illusion perspective, the way we see this world is an illusion, but the illusion is still real. The fact that there is an illusion is real. That is if we read the Bhagavatam commentary 1.1.1 purport of Srila Prabhupada, that will be very clear. The mirage and the desert, this part will be very clear there. Okay? And then, is Krishna real? So in Kevala Advaita, I'm so sorry to put this here verily in his presence, but in Kevala Advaita, there is absolute identity with Jiva. In Vishishta Advaita, yes, there is absolute reality. In same with Madhvacharya and same with Achintya Vedanta. There is absolute real in all these things. And then in identity of the Jiva, this is not from a metaphysical perspective, from a theological perspective of that sampradaya. This has nothing to do with the philosophy. But in Kevala Dvaita, Jiva is identical with Brahman. In Vishishta Dvaita, they are eternal servants of Narayana. Same with Dvaita and same with Achintya Vedanta. Identity of matter, there is no matter in Kevala Dvaita. In Vishishta Dvaita, they are differentiated attributes of Narayana. In Dvaita, they are real eternal substances dependent on Narayana. In Achintya Vedanta, they are objects for Krishna's pleasure and they simply transform into spirit when viewed spiritually. The destiny of souls. In Kevala Dvaita, there is no destiny because there is only Brahman, there is no action, there is no karma, there is no activity, there is no destiny, there is nothing, right? And then in Vishishta Dvaita, these are all different. There are different routes to Vaikuntha based on our activities or within this material universe. We spoke about it during our Vishishta Dvaita lecture. And in Tattvavada, some will stay eternally in the material existence. Some are eternally damned to hellish planets. Some go to heaven. Some get liberated. So they all different souls will have different routes. And in Achintya Vedanta, under Krishna consciousness, there is free will for that soul to use that free will wisely and go to Vaikuntha. But under the material nature, they are under the stringent grips of the material nature. I think this might. Oh no, what happened? Still my last slide. My last slide. Creation. In Kevala Advaita, in the real sense, there is no creation at all. In the mundane sense, there is some clear creation, but it's like games, illusory games. It looks like as though something is created, play of games, but ultimately that creation doesn't exist. In Ramanujacharya, yes, the secondary modes differentiate from an undifferentiated state and create, and that is called creation. In Madhvacharya, yes, there is creation, but the Ishvara or Hari is the efficient cause, but not the material cause, because there is a complete separation between Ishvara and matter, and it is handled by the demigods. This is where Madhvacharya has the demigod's role in it. In Achintya Vedanta, in the transcendental sense, all spiritual entities are in service of Krishna. But in the mundane sense, there is an illusory, in the illusory material energy here, 1/4 of the spiritual space is reserved for that illusory material energy. Vaikuntha, this is my last thing here. In Advaita, there is no separate Vaikuntha. Everything is a homogeneous spirit. In Vishishta Advaita, they are seen in two phases, one in the milk ocean and one in the called as Paramapada, which is their Vaikuntha. And Vaikuntha, in Madhvacharya, Vaikuntha is a spiritual world with eternal differences between the Nitya Muktas. Okay, all the Nitya Muktas, the eternally liberated souls, are always there in Vaikuntha, eternally in service of the Lord in the Vaikuntha. In Achintya Vedanta, in the Abheda aspect, the entire existence is Vaikuntha. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this in his Kalyana Kalpataru. In the Bheda aspect, beyond the Karana ocean, the causal ocean, okay, that is beyond the Brahma Jyoti, beyond the Karana ocean, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. Okay, and even within this material world, there are 3 Vishnus. Okay, there are aspects of Vaikuntha we can see here in the Karana ocean, in the milk ocean, and in the Garbhodaka ocean. So with that, I'm going to finish this seminar series on comparative Vedanta. And if I have missed anything or if I've said anything correct, please feel free to correct and please share your discussion, your points. I offer my humble obeisance here, and I would like to thank His Grace Yugal Kishore Prabhu for asking me to do this. It has been an amazing opportunity to talk here in this temple in front of the deities in ISKCON Farmington. And thanks to Shyam Kishore Prabhu also for coordinating for all these 4 sessions. Vancha kalpadabhyascha kripa sindhu bevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any points of discussion?
So we have a question for Dvaita philosophy. So like they say that everything is permanent. Material world is permanent, spiritual world is permanent, and soul have its own position. And so one question, do they answer how this hellish soul or pious soul comes into existence?
Okay, so the question here is, why is it that some, if I'm paraphrasing this correctly, why is it that certain souls are predominantly in the mode of ignorance moving towards hellish planets? So I will also rephrase that thing, the word is permanent to eternal. Okay, there's a difference between those two. It's not like permanent means it stays as it is. But Tattvavada is not saying that they're staying as it is permanently. They are eternal. That means in some form or the other, they are staying eternally. Yes, go ahead, Prabhu.
So they will gradually, they'll never, like you said, right, that they said that they will never go to Vaikuntha Loka, they'll always stay in material world.
The Tattvavada states that there are every soul is of a certain type. Okay, that means if one soul cannot be same as the other soul, how is it possible that the destiny of one soul can be same as the other soul? Right? So that means the soul has certain attributes which make them behave in a certain way. That means if a soul has a certain feature which is only allowing them to go watch a movie in a theater, that is what they will choose. With practical, the scope of getting out of that is very less.
But there is some scope.
There is scope, but that is in the spiritual sense, but the scope is very less. It may be, but in that sense, we are not that different from them in that sense. But for as far as we are concerned, the scope is there in the fullest extent at every time as far as we are concerned. Whether the person is a mode of ignorance, mode of goodness, mode of passion does not matter for us. As far as the Gaudiya Sampradaya is concerned, these material modes don't dictate our spiritual progress. Maybe in one sense, we can say maybe mode of goodness might help in a sense, okay, that we are predominantly in mode of goodness, it might help in spiritual progress, but it may not. Because even that mode of goodness can give conceit, it can give self-satisfaction in this, even they may not proceed towards, but those in the mode of ignorance, by contact of a devotee, can immediately transform and go into the spiritual world, but that person in the mode of goodness may have no scope in that sense at all. So in that sense, Achintya Bheda Bheda here, every minute, every second, we have that free will, which we can always effectively use to get out of this material existence and approach a spiritual world. But those things you can also see in our sampradaya. Like for example, in the Tattvavada, the way the Tattvavada went over course of time, there were based on the divisions by so-called by birth divisions. They have somewhere or the other, the conditions have been made difficult for people to even progress. Like we mentioned about the story of Kanakadasa, where it was hard for that devotee to come and worship in the Udupi temple. But Krishna did not listen to that, right? Because the deity of the Krishna turned facing that devotee.
After that, they changed their philosophy.
No, the philosophy is that. That is the philosophy. But one thing I will say here is, none of these philosophies are, except for the Mayavada part, None of them are wrong. Madhvacharya cannot say anything that is wrong. Ramanujacharya cannot say anything that is wrong because they're all, and all these are bona fide sampradayas according to Padma Purana. But the only thing is they explain one part of the scripture. They take a certain view and explain to that. So none of this is false. Everything is true, but there are things beyond it also. But even then, if you follow any of these sampradayas fully and properly, you will be able to go to the spiritual world. It is not like, but according to Madhvacha, according to Tattvavadis, you cannot. Because for them, like in Tattvavada, if you are following Vishishtadvaita, the knowledge is incomplete and you cannot go to Vaikuntha. Incomplete knowledge souls have no place in Vaikuntha. Because in Vaikuntha, you have people with full knowledge. So according to Tattvavada, unless you follow this Tattvavada, you cannot go to. So those who are following Achintya Beda Beda, they are having incomplete knowledge as far as Tattvavadis are concerned, and they have no room in Vaikuntha. Maybe they'll have to retake birth and then follow Madhvacharya and understand Tattvavada as it is before they can go to Vaikuntha.
But then, Prabhuji, according to their philosophy, even if they retake birth, they will be in same, they will going down and down, right? They'll never come up.
But the assumption here is those who are following these kind of paths, they are already in a certain progress. But in one sense, Prabhu, it is not wrong because it is not wrong because it is so hard to change an individual's ways of actions. It is so hard. That is why it says Mama Maya Dhurati Devi is a Gunamahi Mama Maya Dhurat. That means that the material energy is so hard to say unless one is in contact with the Vaishnavas, it is impossible to change. So Madhvacharya is not wrong there.
Yeah.
He is right. That is why even that Parama Advaiti in the Shankaracharya sense, those who do not believe in the existence and the personality of Godhead, even for them, Krishna has to be merciful to give them even Sayujya Mukti. Whether they recognize Krishna or not doesn't matter. But even for them to get Sayujya Mukti, Krishna has to have his grace.
That was my another question, sir, that how they will realize that they are Brahman in Kevala Advaita. Like they said that there is no method to acquire knowledge. So how they will realize they are Brahman? So that was my situation.
There is no realizing and all. They are already Brahman. There is no realizing. If there is something called realizing, then there is duality. It is all the Kevala Advaita is in one sense very simple. Brahman exists. That's it.
And even if they die, like they should depend on the someone mercy to.
Not for them, but the truth may be that Krishna, out of mercy, he says, okay, this person has performed so many austerities to realize that they are Brahman. Okay, let them have Sayujya Mukti, but they may not know that. See, if they don't want to know, if they don't want to recognize Krishna's grace, Krishna is not going and telling, okay, please recognize my supremacy. Krishna has no need for all that. It is that individual soul's unfortunate position.
But Krishna being very merciful, he might arrange.
Krishna is so merciful. Krishna is so merciful that look at the way this world is, how the world behaves with Krishna and the way Krishna behaves with them, right? So, but these souls are still unfortunate. Shri Vijayo Bhutir. So, Shri, the goddess of fortune, exists where Krishna is there. And they are unfortunate. If they cannot, the Sayujya Mukti is in an unfortunate position. They might be getting out of, they have even lost the scope of even contact with the Vaishnavas unless there is a fall down. But even for such Brahma Bhuta, even for them, there is scope in the sense like the Kumaras. They also got attracted to Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami got attracted to Krishna. So in this way, Atma Rama Munayo, these self-satisfied by looking at what do they get attracted with? Urukrama Hari, that attractive Hari. Atma Rama Muniyo Nirgram Tapi Urukrame, Urukrada, Urukram Hari. Attractive Hari will attract even that, those in the Brahman platform. Any other?
Trying to understand, I mean, definitely it's a complex subject for me. But when we say that whatever Madhvacharya propagated, that is correct, partially correct. But if they what do you say? If they understand or if they agree that that is complete, that's incorrect, right?
Okay, so the question here is, why is it that each of these sampradayas, they are correct, right? So, like if you take Vasishtadvaita, Dvaita, Shuddha Dvaita, or Dvaita Dvaita, okay, they're all giving one aspect of complete realization, which is sufficient for God realization. And every Achintya Bheda Bheda may be the natural commentary for, because it doesn't interpret anything. You see, Bhagavatam, there are so many verses which only talk Abheda. Vadantita, Tatvedam, Tattvam, Yajnanam, Advayam, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdi. There are Abheda. But Bheda also it talks about in verses very clearly, it declares Krishna as the supreme, Krishna is to Bhagavan Swayam. It declares Krishna as the supreme person of Godhead. There are Bheda verses absolutely there in Bhagavatam. Achintya Bheda Bheda doesn't interpret anything. But that doesn't mean that pure Bheda is wrong or pure Abheda is also wrong. So one of these philosophies might take pure Abheda and talk about just pure Abheda. And with that alone, they are realizing that is also okay. And some of them are taking pure Bheda. And then, so that doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just that they're not talking about Abheda. So, and this spiritual world is full of variety, that you have living entities of so many different proclivities. Some living entities have that extreme proclivity for absolute bheda between God and the living entity. They would find this attractive and they do immense service for Lord Krishna with that bheda. And you also have living entities, let's say the Kumaras, before they went to the Vaikuntha, they were in the complete Abheda part. But that was the proclivity of the Kumaras. That doesn't make Kumaras any, that was their proclivity. And so they had that um, as their, so that is the variety that is there in the spiritual world. Everybody, and that variety is appreciated here through these different philosophies. So that means, like, if you see the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they are doing, Ramanujacharya himself has done so much for Vaishnavism that even the Tirumala hills, he would not even put his foot on the Tirumala hills, that he climbed the first hill just by the knee because it represents Adisesha. He would not even put his foot on that hill. That was the kind of devotion. What is the these kind of devotees are stalwart devotees that when one sincerely follows Vishishtadvaita, liberation will be assured. But that doesn't mean, because all aspects of Vishishtadvaita are covered in Achitya Bheda. Like if you take the soul of the universe as Narayana, soul of the universe, we cover it in three aspects. As Kshirodakasai Vishnu, Garbhodakasai Vishnu, Karanodakasai Vishnu. We cover it in three aspects, we cover it. But so in that sense, Vaishnavas, we do not see any fault in other Vaishnavas or other Sampradayas, because they are also absolutely correct in taking the devotees to the Godhead. But those who are able to see Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, we have, it is a comprehensive philosophy which does not require any interpretation. The other philosophies, they do take a certain stand on in a certain thing. But I go ahead, Prabhu. You want to say something?
So that's interesting to understand, probably, because this Achintya Bhed Abhed was started by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
I'll make one correction there. Prabhu, Achintya Bheda was not started by anybody. It is the eternal philosophy always existing. Maybe the name Achintya Bheda. See, if you see Bhagavatam, which has been in the written form for 5,000 years, the philosophy is Achintya Bheda. The Vedanta Sutra, which Sri Vyasadeva put into 4 chapters. First chapter is an introduction. Second chapter is you have Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. The 3 other chapters, the 4 chapters, the natural philosophy is Achintya Bheda Veda. Maybe the name called as Achintya Bheda for the first time occurs in the scripture called as a Sarva Sambhadini, which is the commentary of the Shatsandarbha written by Jiva Goswami. But the Achintya Bheda Veda is an eternally existing philosophy.
So if I understood correctly, so Achintya Bhed Abhed is further expansion of the other what Ramanujacharya said and what Madhvacharya propagated.
I will put it this way, Prabhu. Achintya Bheda Veda is the most comprehensive eternal philosophy, of which parts of it are explained by other sampradayas. I wouldn't say that we are actually synthesizing, because this has always been there. So Vishishtadvaita explains the qualified non-dual part of it. The Bheda, which is like a Ghataka, which is the bridge part. The bridge part between Bheda and Abheda is explained predominantly in Vishishtadvaita. The Abheda part is explained by certain sampradayas. The Bheda part is explained by certain sampradayas. But Achintya Bheda Veda is the sum total, beyond which there is nothing.
So what's if they follow, say, whatever Veda side or Abheda side, they will still get liberation if a soul properly follows that.
Correct. But
what is the difference between that liberation and obviously as a devotee we don't aspire for a liberation. And we say that liberation is the byproduct of bhakti. So, what is the difference between those liberations?
So, liberation, Prabhu, like I will refer to a book called as Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. It was written, it's like a 1,000-page book written by His Holiness Shivarama Swami and Maharaj. And he has given some 30-40 kinds of liberations. Okay. And each of them, there are so many varieties in the liberation. So depending on like for example, in the impersonal liberation itself, there are so many varieties. So, and the souls we have to appreciate here the variety of souls. Every soul has different proclivities and different ways they want to progress. Okay. So based on the way they want to progress, they choose a certain, and they also come in contact with a certain sampradaya and they progress. But I will still make a thing here that this Achintya Bheda Veda, it does not require anybody to interpret anything. You are free to take the natural meaning of every sutra and progress. So in a sense, some aspects of liberation are out of the different kinds of liberations, there are some aspects that are achieved by those who are following Vishishtadvaita or Dvaita. But in Achintya Bheda Veda, we have the most comprehensive view of all kinds of liberation. All kinds of liberation, appreciating the different varieties of paths, different varieties of mukti, and they are only broadly classifying in the Bhagavatam as Sarupya, Salokya, and so on. But each of them has like several branches of liberation in them. So, is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, like just like one clarification that we have an extra called Golok Vrindavan, but others don't have it. They just say Vaikuntha. So, by they saying Vaikuntha, will they also mean Golok Vrindavan, or they just stop at Narayan and Golok Vrindavan?
So in Madhvas, all of them, there is no difference. Okay, so you can worship Krishna, you can worship Hayagriva, you can worship Rama. There is no difference there. But here, as far as Achintya Bheda is concerned, this is not from the metaphysical perspective, but from a theological perspective. Okay, because you're talking this from theology. From a theological perspective, those who are intensely worshipping Krishna, they will go to Krishna. Those who are worshipping Rama will go to Rama's planet.
Same as them only. That if we worship, we'll go there only.
Correct. But for Madhvacharya, there is no difference between these. Yeah. But for us, there is no difference, but there is a difference. Like, for example, like if you take the rasa, for instance, like with Krishna, all kinds of mellows, devotees can interact with them, with him. Like, for example, let's take even outside Vishnu Tattva, let's take Lord Shiva. Okay. Like, who is going and worshipping Lord Shiva as a friend? You cannot see anybody. You can see people worshipping him as the supreme. You can see him worshipping as somebody greater, right? Let's take Vishnu Tattva. If you take Sri Ramachandra Prabhu, there are people who have worshipped him as a friend. You can say Vibhishana, Guha, people have worshipped him as a friend. People have worshipped him as a master and themselves a servant, like Hanuman, Rama, in a servitude mode. You can, but as Vatsalya Rasa, in terms of seeing Ramachandra Prabhu as Lord Rama as a baby, it's very briefly mentioned. Okay, there it starts diminishing. And as soon as it comes to conjugal love, it's gone. Because he doesn't marry anybody other than Sita Devi. Sita Devi is the eternal consort of Sri Ramachandra Prabhu. So that is gone. But with Krishna, all doors are open. Right? Even in conjugal love, it is with married state, unmarried state, in all kinds. So that means that is why the philosophy of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is the most comprehensive, whether it is metaphysically or theologically. As in any sense, it is comprehensive. Vishnu, like let's take the Vishishtadvaita, for example, in the theology perspective, they have Vishnu who is in the lying form, in the reclining form, okay? But it is very hard for them to identify who is Garbhodakasai Vishnu, who is Kshirodakasai Vishnu, who is Mahavishnu. That is why in the Sri Rangam temple, he is lying in the causal ocean, so in the milk ocean. In the Padmanabha Swami temple in Trivandrum, he is lying in the Garbhodaka ocean, but they really don't differentiate between these two line forms. But as far as we are concerned, we know that the Padmanabha Swami is the Garbhodakasai Vishnu, but in Sri Rangam, he is the Kshirodakasai Vishnu. So in this way, we have the most comprehensive understanding of the theology as well as the metaphysics. So in that sense, there will be differences in terms of the liberation. There is no difference, but there is a difference. That is, in every sense, you will find Achintya Bheda Bheda. In the material sense, in the spiritual sense, in terms of Krishna, in terms of Rama, in terms of Vishnu Tattva, in terms of the demigods, everywhere there is Bheda and Abheda simultaneously existing. So in that sense, Prabhu, there is no difference between us and the other sampradayas, but there is a difference. Because there also there is Achintya Bheda Bheda. Is it okay, Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarvyasya kripa sindhu bheva paritam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
HG Jayananda Gauranga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.